Have you ever wanted to play a game that includes some of the most iconic characters from a multitude of games all fighting against each other in an arena with intricate level design? Yes, Super Smash Bros. The game where friendships and family connections are initiated, continued, and eventually probably destroyed. Starting in 1999 with the release of Super Smash Bros. And continuing to this day with Smash Ultimate in 2018, Smash Bros. Has been easily one of the best ideas Nintendo has ever crafted and certainly has sprung competition amongst fans. It is a game that arguably has been one of the most popular games in the entirety of the Nintendo catalog and has sparked a fanbase larger than even some of the mainline Nintendo games. However, despite the popularity, there is a multitude of information that is hidden beneath the surface that may or may not be spotted by those playing the game. In order to uncover these mysteries, I have found this iceberg chart on the r/iceberg chart subreddit that was created by a user named the Virtual Vindicator, which is linked in the description, and in this video we will be covering each entry in full detail. So without further ado, let us get into the first layer. Sakurai's cat. In the background of Pokemon Stadium 2's ice transformation, you can see an interesting Easter egg within the cabin that appears. If you manipulate the camera just enough, you can actually see this image of a cat within the building, which initially had been speculated to be a picture of series creator Masahiro Sakurai's cat. This would be debunked by Sakurai eventually, as his actual cat that he owns looks like this. Sonic in Melee. Although many may think this is simply just a rumor amongst the community, this is actually not entirely the truth. Sonic as a playable character actually was considered all the way back in 2001 due to the overall failure of the Dreamcast, meaning that Sega was looking to expand their horizons to the GameCube. Both Shigeru Miyamoto and Masahiro Sakurai were on board with the idea as well. However, apparently due to time constraints, Sonic would ultimately not be added to the game and would be saved for the next game, Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Daisy's third eye. If you no-clip into the Daisy statue on Super Smash Bros. Melee and look at the back of her head, you can actually see a third eye. This is most likely just a modeling error, but it's kinda creepy seeing it, so I'm just gonna move on. Onett Rice Ball. On the Onett stage for Earthbound, there is a hidden rice ball behind this bunch of flowers. Again, just like Daisy's eye, there really is not much to this one, but it's a cool Easter egg. Ridley is too big. This entry refers to a meme spread by the Smash community at rumors of Ridley being released to the game in newer releases. Many were saying he was too big to be in the game, especially because of his appearance in Brawl. However, Ridley would eventually be put into the game in Smash Ultimate and seems to be a pretty solid addition to the roster. Game & Watch 3D model. Although it may seem weird, Mr. Game & Watch technically has a 3D model in the game. The only reason we cannot technically see the full 3D itself while playing the game is because the Nintendo developers coded him to be geometrically flat in order to maintain his character. The developers most likely did this as it is much easier to code 3D objects colliding with one another compared to 2D and 3D. Ice Climbers in Smash 4. While it is odd, the Ice Climbers are actually completely absent from Smash 4, which was the Smash that was released onto the Wii U and 3DS. Essentially, the Ice Climbers were originally intended to be in the game, as they had been in every game prior. However, the development team had a multitude of issues when attempting to run the character properly for the 3DS. Since they wanted both rosters to be the same for the Wii U and 3DS, the Ice Climbers unfortunately had to be cut from the game. Codex. Codex and Smash are essentially Easter eggs that can be performed to unlock dialogue between characters on certain stages. For instance, if you were to use Snake and be on Shadow Moses Island and were to do the down taunt command for a singular frame, a message from a character from the Metal Gear series will begin to describe his opponent, based on the character or characters he is fighting. This is a really interesting feature that is within the games they are featured in, and it just adds a bunch of personality to the game that I love. I recommend looking into these conversations more if you are interested. Dragon King the Fighting Game. Dragon King the Fighting Game was a game being developed by Masahiro Sakurai and Satoru Iwata to be released for the Nintendo 64 around 1998 or 1999. Essentially, this game was being developed to be a fighting game for a home console, and was supposedly supposed to be the first installment of many to be released. This game would also feature 4 players instead of the usual 2 seen in most games at the time. However, Sakurai began to feel that the development of the game and its gameplay gameplay seemed to lack the appropriate atmosphere that would be needed, with the characters being too similar and bland. Due to this, Sakurai would scrap this game. However, he would use the idea and eventually would build to what we know now today as Super Smash Bros. Geno. Geno is a character from the extremely odd Super Mario RPG game released to the Super Nintendo, who has grown in popularity over time due to his unique character design. Surprisingly, Geno was actually considered by the developers for Super Smash Bros. Brawl, but ultimately was not added, most likely because the company that actually owns him is Square Enix and not Nintendo. Geno's name still lives in the games, however, as he is now a Mii outfit in both Smash 4 and Ultimate, making his character to be implemented a genuine possibility. Toby Fox beat Sakurai. Toby Fox is the man behind the immensely popular game Undertale and somehow found himself in a Smash game with Sakurai. What is funny about this, however, is that Toby actually beat Sakurai, who, let me remind you, literally made the game. Because of this, Sakurai actually asked Toby if he wanted one of his characters to be in the game, in which Toby said yes, and that is how we have the Sans Mii outfit today. Brawl battle damage. During the development for Smash Bros. Brawl, the developers actually considered battle damage being added to the characters during the match. If the character had a higher damage count, then their character would show it by either ripped clothing, cracks, cuts, or bruising, and is a interesting design feature that I am a little disappointed never got added. ESRB leak. This entry refers to a leak that occurred prior to the release of Smash 4 in the August of 2014. Essentially, this leak started with an anonymous 4chan user, which saw a good chunk of the game getting leaked, with character roster and certain maps being leaked. This is a large rabbit hole in itself, but essentially it was a bunch of leaks and speculations that ended up being true the majority of the time, which was kind of a disappointment for the majority of Smash players, as hearing all of the information right off the bat is no fun whatsoever. Unused tracks. There are presumably a lot of unused tracks within the files of the game, but the only one I could really find is this Melee intro piece that ended up being unused. There really isn't too much to this one, and if you guys have any other further information, let me know down in the comments. Playable Master Hand. This was an extremely popular rumor in the early days of Smash, in which the iconic Master Hand was said to be playable. This was almost never true up until the release of the most recent Smash as of making this video, Smash Ultimate, where he actually technically is playable. Master Hand can be playable on a special event battle found in World of Light, in which his moveset is very similar to his CPU moves. Rainbow Cruise Village. If you look closely in the background of the Rainbow Cruise stage on Melee, you can actually see this tiny little village hidden in the backdrop. Due to the presence of this village, of course many have made theories regarding it being playable in Super Mario 64, but ultimately it would never amount to anything. But it is interesting to speculate as to what was going on in this town. Forbidden 7. The Forbidden 7 is the name given to the 7 characters who had incomplete files within the files of Smash Bros. Brawl, implying they were going to be playable characters. These characters include Dixie Kong, Roy, Mewtwo, Dr. Mario, Toon Zelda, Toon Sheik, and Plusle and Minun. Child's Imagination Theory. This entry refers to a theory that is widespread amongst the Smash community that states all of the events are within a child's imagination. People tend to believe this because in the beginning of the original Smash, we can see Master Hand taking toys of the characters out of a toy box, making the theory more valid. Additionally, when characters are defeated, they are simply reduced to trophies or playable figures that can be used by a child. I personally think this is what Nintendo was initially going for, but who knows if that has changed in the newer games. Mario and Luigi die. This entry refers to how both Mario and Luigi are seen being killed in some character reveal trailers, with Mario seemingly seeing more death than Luigi. For instance, Mario is seen being punched into the Minecraft world by Sonic and having a creeper explode behind him for the Steve reveal, and additionally has been seen getting crushed by Ridley in his reveal. Luigi has also been killed in one of these trailers, as within the Ridley reveal, the Grim Reaper takes Luigi's life as can be shown, which is just a really odd inclusion. Who knows what this implies, but for me personally, I believe it's just for the dramatic effects of the trailers, and the use of Mario mainly is a simple marketing strategy. Top secret. In the Western versions of Melee, the origin of the proximity mine is listed as top secret. Nobody really knows why this is, and the addition of this description is odd as we know for a fact that the mine is from GoldenEye 007. 2L84ME. This entry is actually pretty funny. For those with a keen eye, on the barrel item there is text at the bottom that states 2L84ME, which essentially translates to too late for me, which most likely refers to the fact if you get caught in the barrel, it could be bad news. This is just a funny entry, and I do like the joke by Nintendo. Pac-Man Cloud. In the reveal trailer for Greninja, some swore they spotted a cloud in the sky that had an uncanny resemblance to Pac-Man, leading many to theorize he would be in the game. Pac-Man would actually be added to the game, but does this necessarily mean anything? Personally, I can't even see what everyone is talking about. My best guess is right here, but I'm not seeing any sort of Pac-Man really anywhere, to be completely honest. The last of his kind. This entry refers to the fact that Rob's boxing ring title is called the last of his kind. Now, I'm not really into the Rob lore, but this would technically imply Rob is the last of his model to be created, and it's just a weird inclusion in the Smash franchise. Ditto in Melee. Ditto is a Pokemon that was a cut Pokeball character that apparently would have turned into the player that threw the ball and joined up with them. Unfortunately, the Pokemon was cut in development, but can still be revived through the use of action replay codes and can still be seen in the Melee strategy guide. The ballot was rigged. The Smash Bros. Ballot was a survey that was conducted for the upcoming DLC release of Smash 4, in which players all over the world were asked what characters they would like to see in the game. The characters that seemed to be the most popular, according to data miners following the conclusion of the ballot, seemed to be Zora, Banjo-Kazooie, and King K. Rool. Despite this, the official winner of the ballot was Bayonetta, which raised some eyebrows because Bayonetta is a third-party character, suggesting that Nintendo observed the ballot results, completed the licensing for Bayonetta, and got all the development process far along enough for her to appear in the game data all within a short amount of time. This has led many to speculate that Bayonetta was not a voted character and was instead rigged from the start, instead using the data from the ballot for characters in Smash Ultimate. Cut Smash 64 characters. There were a couple characters that were cut from Smash 64, including Bowser, King Dedede, Mewtwo, and Marth. The majority of these characters would be seen in games following extremely close to this release, and the majority of them were not included due to time constraints. PRA_MIA. PRA_MIA is actually one of the Forbidden 7 we mentioned earlier, which was theorized to be Plusle and Minun as playable characters. However, this file name is really all we have to go off of, and generally it is debated as to who this character was initially supposed to be. The best theory is a Plusle and Minun duo, however it would not make the most sense whatsoever as duo characters such as Ice Climbers have separate names in the files, not just one. Alfonso, leave it to me. In Smash 4, the stage Spirit Train generally sees Toon Link conducting the train while every other fighter engages in battle. However, if Toon Link is currently fighting, then he obviously cannot be conducting the train, and a character named Alfonso steps in and conducts the train instead. Danger. I cannot really find anything on this entry besides the fact that on stages such as Smash Runs, for instance, there are these danger zones that are placed that, if touched, will KO the player instantly. I am not entirely sure if there's any more to this entry, and if anyone knows, please let me know in the comments below. Grinch leak. This refers to yet another leak that occurred prior to the release of Smash Ultimate, when someone leaked an image which contained a version of the famous mural with a bunch of fan favorite characters. But this picture additionally had an image of the Grinch movie that was seeing a release relatively soon as well, which dubbed the name the Grinch leak. Ultimately, the mural was found to be fake, as it included characters such as Shadow and Geno, which we know was not in the final game. Unused Sans Eye. In the files of Smash Ultimate, there is a unused spot for Sans' iconic blue eye. It is unknown why this was not used in the final game, and personally, I believe this would have been a fantastic addition to his character, so it's kinda disappointing seeing it lost. Knuckles' homing attack. attack. In Smash Ultimate, Knuckles is unfortunately not a playable character within the game, however he does appear in the form of an assist trophy. His attack is very interesting as it essentially sees Knuckles performing a special move that allows him to quickly approach his opponents with a extremely powerful punch, making him a very helpful assist trophy. However, after reading online about this topic, it seems that others are disappointed at this, as it does not necessarily reflect Knuckles' character entirely, and it is disappointing not seeing him in the game itself. Test Stage. The test stage, sometimes referred to as the coffee shop, is a stage in Melee that can only be accessed through the debug menu with an action replay. In the background of the stage, we can see a coffee shop of some sort, hence its name just mentioned, and consists of a wide variety of gray platforms and shapes within the level design, with Corneria's music in the background. The shop in the background was actually identified as being a closed Cafe Verona in California, and the stage was used to test 3D graphics. Racist Game & Watch. This entry refers to how Mr. Game & Watch used to have an animation within his moveset that would see him turning red, holding a torch of some kind, and wearing what seems to be a feather on the back of his head. Obviously, this may have some racial implications towards Native Americans. However, I am most certain that is not what Nintendo intended with the design, as personally I could have believed it was some sort of bandit without any context. Due to the backlash, Nintendo eventually removed the animation from the game entirely and replaced it with a new animation. Greninja Mewtwo Misdirect. I'm not entirely sure what this means, but I did find something online that may relate. According to this artist known as Eldridge, Mewtwo was absent from both Brawl and the original cast of Smash 4 because his letter apparently got mishandled in the mail explaining his absence. To be completely honest, I have no idea what else to say. I could not find any evidence of this for Greninja, so if you guys have any idea, please let me know in the comments below. Dr. Mario Stage. Dr. Mario is one of the few characters within the game that has never seen a stage based off of his character in any of the games that have been released. There is a rumor that a stage for him was being developed for Smash 4, but was ultimately cut due to time constraints. But that is about all we have heard from a Smash Dr. Mario stage. There is a mod called Smash Infinite that includes a Dr. Mario stage, however, and is actually a extremely creative stage with interesting design pieces. It is just unfortunate Dr. Mario never got an official stage. Petey Piranha Cages. This entry refers to the final smash of the character Piranha Plant, in which a ginormous Petey Piranha will appear with 2 cages in his hand. He will then start swinging them and jumping around the stage, and if a player is caught within it, they will be burnt and eventually smashed to the ground where they will be KO'd. Additionally, in Smash Bros. Brawl, he is a boss that can be found on the adventure mode found within the game, in which he will have captured Princess Peach and Zelda in these cages. However, his moveset is relatively similar. Purple and yellow chairs. Back in 2018, there was a Nintendo Direct for Smash Ultimate, in which Sakurai sat in a room with purple and yellow chairs in the background. To many, this initially was a blatant hint that Waluigi would be in the game, or even Skull Kid, but to this day, we are not entirely sure why these were here. With hindsight in mind, I really do just think these are chairs that are colored uniquely and nothing more. Master Hand Blood. In Super Smash Bros. Brawl, when Master Hand encounters Taboo, his hand actually leaves the battle with cuts that have clear blood on them. It is a really interesting detail and is honestly surprising to see in a Nintendo game. However, I have always thought that Brawl was dark and gritty, so I personally believe it fits the atmosphere perfectly. Monster Under the Bed. In the stage Luigi's Mansion in Brawl, the underside of the bed in the top left of the room actually has a boot texture within it. You cannot see this while playing the stage, and is just a Easter egg for those who want to see it, and clearly is a reference to the childish fear of a monster under the bed, or it could be a reference to how ghosts would come out of the furniture in Luigi's Mansion. Realistic Substitute Doll. The substitute doll within Smash 4, while a mainly irrelevant and unimportant piece of the game, actually is textured extremely well to a point where it looks almost realistic. Nobody really knows why this is, and it's just a odd detail within the game, especially since it came out on the 3DS and Wii U. Mizzo. This entry refers to a cut enemy that would have appeared in the adventure mode of Smash Bros. Brawl. Its appearance is extremely weird looking, almost creepy, and it has been stated that this creature creature would have been encountered in water areas. Marvel is canon. This is a really weird conclusion, however, in all technicalities, Smash Bros. Could be canonical in the MCU. This is because Zora appears in the Smash games, who is actually owned by Disney, who is owned by Marvel, technically meaning he could be canon in the MCU. However, despite this, you could really honestly make this connection with almost anything nowadays, and I really think that people just took it too far. Rob is an invalid character. I honestly once again could not really find anything on this whatsoever. The only thing I could really find about this is that Rob is very prevalent in the meta of Ultimate in particular and has led to people being against him. If you have any other information, please put it in the comments below because I'm lost. Mario Maker stage is impossible. There is a stage in both Smash 4 and Ultimate that is based off of the popular game Super Mario Maker, and is a very interesting stage as it changes constantly throughout the game between different eras of Mario. This stage is classified as being extremely difficult because of this, however, as the stage is constantly changing and can feature the hand with the stylus that could add elements throughout the match, leading to some people calling it impossible. This could be completely wrong, so let me know in the comments if you have any further information. Froggy chair. This entry refers to a meme within the Smash community about a chair that looks like a frog that appears in Animal Crossing. This meme was extremely popular a while ago, and many were creating images that saw Froggy chair being added to the game, and it was just a funny time to be a fan of Smash. The Froggy chair also appears in the final Smash of Villager, however I think the entry was referring to the meme. Giga Bowser is the original Bowser. Giga Bowser is a character that first appeared in Super Smash Bros. Melee and is clearly a more beefed up and scary looking Bowser than what we are traditionally used to. There is a theory that this Bowser was supposed to be the original Bowser that would have appeared in Melee. However, this did not end up coming into the game, and ultimately Giga Bowser remains in the Smash universe separate from the original Bowser. Captain Falcon's gun. This entry refers to how Captain Falcon carries a firearm that we can see clearly on his character model. However, he never uses it in any of his moves. It is unknown as to why, as characters such as Fox and Falco use theirs, but not Captain Falcon, which is just strange. Slamfest 99. Super Smash Bros. Slamfest 99 was an official promotional event that was held in Las Vegas to advertise the upcoming release of Super Smash Bros. The event featured 4 real-life character costumes battling in a boxing ring, with Mario, Yoshi, Pikachu, and Donkey Kong all being present, with kiosks that apparently had playable versions of the game. However, this event is considered partially lost media, because as of making this video, there is no real video footage of this event anywhere online, with only a handful of photos being the only evidence this ever existed. Who knows if we will ever find video evidence of this event, and to this day Slamfest remains a mystery amongst fans of Nintendo. Nestor. Nestor was the official mascot for Nintendo Power between 1988 and 1993, and was a boy with orange hair and a standard outfit. Nestor was rumored to appear in Smash 4, however, as apparently the official Nintendo website added him as a playable character for the game. However, it did not take long for people to realize it was a fake website that stated that he was in the game. It would have been cool to see Nestor in the game, however he never has appeared or even been rumored by Nintendo. Spiral Mountain Sound. This entry refers to a weird spot of speculation in 2019 where a mysterious sound was heard in the Banjo reveal trailer after Gruntilda was shown on Spiral Mountain. This led many to believe that Gruntilda would be a boss within the game because of it, but of course today we know that didn't happen. Good boys and girls. This entry refers to a sentence said by Sakurai following the introduction of Terry, who is from a game series known as Fatal Fury. Sakurai mentions that a character also from the game, Mai Shiranui, would not be featured as, quote, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is for good boys and girls from many different ages. Because Mai could be seen as a little too iffy to be put into the Smash game for family, she was not added to protect the little ones. Rosalina Assist Trophy. Those who attended the Wabi Game Festival in 2007 claim to have seen an assist trophy for Rosalina in a demo of Super Smash Bros. Brawl, which was set to release in the following year. However, despite the testimonies, no evidence has been found within the files that suggests that this is a real real element of the game, making it a true mystery amongst the community to if Rosalina was actually a trophy. Jet Force Gemini Spirits. Within the files of Smash Ultimate, data miners have found Jet Force Gemini Spirits that obviously do not appear in the base game. This does technically suggest that Nintendo consulted with Rare to include them as spirits within the game, which led to speculation that Banjo would be featured in the game, in which we now know he was. Rayman imprisoned on Battlefield. If you look closely within the ice on the very popular Battlefield stage, you can actually notice a figure imprisoned within it. It is common speculation that this is actually Rayman from the series with the same name, suggesting that he could be a fighter in the future. However, this has not been confirmed nor denied by Nintendo as of making this video, meaning that this could be just some sort of knockoff character that has no meaning, or it could indeed be Rayman. Flying Man model. The Flying Man is a character seen within the Earthbound series and can be seen within a couple of Smash games. But while developing Smash 4, the Flying Man model originally consisted of a 2D sprite, similar to the way he is seen in the game, which would eventually be replaced with a 3D model of the character itself. However, this put too much constraint on the 3DS at the time, so the 2D sprite was instead used in the place of the 3D model. And eventually this would lead the 3D model to be used as a Mii costume that we see in Ultimate. Seal Clubbing. This entry could refer to two things within Smash Bros. Within Super Smash Bros. Melee, the character known as Topi actually had to be changed from a seal to a Yeti due to controversy surrounding actual seal clubbing at the time. However, the more likely purpose behind this entry is the problem with the gaming term seal clubbing, which refers to higher skilled players beating up or bullying lower skilled players. It honestly features in almost every online game in the present day, and it is unfortunate as it can lead to a loss of love for a game because of skilled players wanting to beat up on lesser skilled players. Sandbag is masochist. This entry is just wild, but I suppose there is evidence to support this technically. In the home run contest in Smash Ultimate, if you get one of the sandbags to 100% or higher, it will blush a little bit. And if you knock it down to the ground, it will blush even more. This could technically suggest that the sandbag gets pleasure out of being hit constantly, which does technically align with that of a masochist, and I just don't want to think about this anymore. I am so sorry for those I have traumatized for the last entry, but that is just weird. But with that, that is the Super Smash Bros. Iceberg. Unlike a lot of the Iceberg videos I have done on this channel previously, I actually genuinely enjoyed the majority of the entries within this Iceberg. Each one had an in-depth research topic to be conducted behind all of them, and it was extremely fun researching all the topics for this video. There were not a lot of filler entries within this Iceberg, and I am extremely pleased with how it turned out. I apologize for not being able to find some of the entries within this video, but if you guys could find them, I would love to hear it in the comments below. Once again, go check out the original Iceberg chart linked in the description if you are interested, and with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and peace.